Gang, we got 3 new episodes of Young Justice. I'm so happy that the show's back. If you'll indulge me.
Yes, I will.
To Young Justice on the DC Universe app. Now, gang, we did our review of the previous episodes last week's, and it's up on our YouTube channel right now. Those are episodes 4 through 6.
Yes.
So you can go listen to that.
Empire Strikes Back.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking about episodes 7 through 9.
But
that's your Force Awakens. That's your Last Jedi. And that's
But this is going to be spoiler free.
There you go.
Yeah, we're going because this episodes drop tomorrow.
Yes, we don't want to get a little slap on the wrist from DC Universe.
Yeah,
we wouldn't like that.
Yeah, we like the relationship we have with them. And
I'm going to spoil them.
Go for it.
Okay.
Well, first what happens is...
Name 3 main characters.
Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Cool. There we go.
They were in the episodes I watched.
Well, in episode
which
7...
were 1, 2, and 3.
Exactly.
Yes.
But in 7, 8, and 9, titled Evolution,
Green Lantern.
Triptych,
John Stewart.
Home Fires.
Not Home Fries,
Black
which is what I
Lightning.
saw when I first looked at that.
Black Lightning.
Black Lightning is.
And
So it is in there.
Darkseid is.
Yeah, Darkseid
Darkseid.
is. So it's weird to talk about these in a clump, even though they're released in a clump, because they're 3 distinct episodes. Of the 3, my favorite is Evolution.
It was a crazy
I think
episode.
we have an asset. It was the first one. I think we have an asset of the main person in Evolution, which is a very Vandal Savage centric episode. And
Vandal Savage.
Vandal Savage is a character that is always a villain I've really liked. I think he's very interesting. This is by far the most epic and intimidating take on a character ever in the history of the character that I can think of. Like,
100%.
Shit.
He's very cool.
Yeah.
He looks great.
It's
like
fun
they
because
turned him into a Darkseid level threat.
Yeah, no. One of the coolest
Holy
parts
shit.
of this episode, when you guys get into it, it's an explanation of his origin.
Yes.
And what they do, because Young Justice does such a good job of kind of boiling all the characters down to like their base, like what their corner of the DC universe looks like. And for Vandal Savage, he's the through line of humanity.
Yes.
He is more
than any other interpretation of this character, this version of Vandal Savage really is like he's been through all of it. Very prominent characters are directly exist because of him.
And he's only in 7, or is he in 7, 8, and 9? Or you can't say.
They've been setting him up as kind of like he's been one of the villains in the first 2 seasons. At the end of season 2, we kind of realized that like, oh, this is kind of his jam. All the bad guy stuff is his jam, and this really sets him up as the big bad for the series. It feels like.
Yeah, at least this season, if you need like a clear direction.
No,
just in 7. It's mainly about him.
Yeah.
And we also get a little revisit to one of my favorite parts of season 2 with the Warp World, which is really cool.
Yes.
But when it comes to what the details are of why that needs to appear in this or be used, that's a very fun little twist that I honestly didn't see coming. It was a cool character.
Also, when you talk about like a lot of this stuff talks about the bad guys see themselves as the hero of their whatever. This one really you really get a sense of like why Vandal Savage is like, no, I'm the guy. Like this sets him up as he is like the first DC Universe superhero. And he's not let go of that shit since.
He will do shady shit, but he's not like just doing it he's doing it because he needs to. He sees that he's the only one who will last.
Yeah, I don't think this is spoilers to say this one line because it is kind of a minor line, but it really gives you a sense of his perspective. He's talking to another character and he's like, I have plans, and some of them are centuries. Like they're centuries out. Like he's thinking hundreds of years in advance of these plans, and you're like, "Oh my god!" It's the first time that you look at it because this is one of the most fully realized adaptations of the DC universe. Like almost everybody's here: Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, all the Green Lanterns, all these supporting characters, and you're like, I don't know if all of these characters can take this guy down. You know what I mean? And I never thought I would feel that way about Vandal Savage.
That's so cool.
And he has a tie back to a lot more in this universe when you start figuring out what he's established and who he is directly responsible for the creation of, like you said. And you get to learn more about his children and what that means because he's been around for so long. He's gotten around. Am I right?
Which makes sense. And that was a really cool episode. Do you want to move forward?
Let's give a quick rating. I'd give it a nice 9.5 out of 10. It was very solid.
Yeah, I would give it a 9. I think the only ding I would give it is that some of the flashbacks, you can see where they do the classic like anime where it's like still images, and it's like, this doesn't have the budget it used to.
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
And it's so surprising with all the shows this app keeps cranking out, even though this is the best thing they've had so far.
You know what? This transitions us into the next episode because the next episode is Triptych, which jumps around more than our past episodes. Most episodes kind of focus on a spot. This one hits few. This and Titans, they have names, Titans and Young Justice, but I feel like each of them could have just been called DC Universe, and they would have been just as accurate.
In this episode, we're seeing, and I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I agree. In this episode, we're finally figuring out, like, with Batman leaving the Justice League with a huge
at the beginning of the
swath
season.
of people.
Yeah.
And where a couple of our other teams are set up throughout the DC universe, we kind of get to check in with all of them and see, because they all want the same thing.
Yeah.
But what are they doing? Like, honestly, like what was Batman's gambit with like leaving like that? Like,
And I like it. I like the reveal there because it's tough, because a lot of people like to make Batman an asshole, and I don't find that very entertaining. And so when you get a little bit of the details of the plan, and also we get to check in with some of the younger members of Young Justice, which I always like. I like our new Outsiders team, but it's cool to check back in with Tim Drake and the rest of them.
Calderon, because it was good to see him.
Yeah,
So
and
that made me happy.
he's cool too. We also get to reintroduce to a classic DC villain that I don't think shown up in Young Justice yet.
I don't think so.
But looks like a living nightmare in this show. Shade, that's Livewire.
And Mist.
And Shade is terrifying looking, and his abilities seem utterly terrifying.
Has he shown up in Flash? Because he's a Flash villain. Has he?
Yes, but it was disappointing. I remember it being disappointing.
The Shadows? Does that make any? That sound familiar? Remember?
I remember being.
I said yes.
Yeah, I kind of remember being underwhelming because he's a really cool villain. When you say a Flash villain, Jay Garrick, I think, is when he was first introduced. He's an old school villain. But this also dives into more of what's going on with the superhuman trafficking, and it's shockingly political. Like, this show is more adult in some of the surface level violence stuff.
Is it making a point? Is it taking a stance, or it's just presenting an issue?
It's so distanced from our politics. It's more of them dealing with, specifically, people are making superhumans and trafficking them across the globe. So that issue, which doesn't necessarily, it brushes up against current ones, but it's so separate from like immigration and stuff. It's not like Supergirl or Black Lightning where it feels preachy, but like the actual reasoning behind like Batman's plan and everything, it's like, oh, that actually makes sense. It's cool to watch one of these shows, and when people are arguing, all the arguments make sense.
Season 3 is when we had the Shade episode. Don't remember a lick of it.
Which is a bummer because he's a cool villain. You should remember
In
it.
this one, he describes the way some of his ability is manipulating shadows, and sometimes they can be portals to other places.
I don't remember that at all.
Exactly, right? Nothing. It's Savitar season. There's a picture of Savitar in the episode. I'm like, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
But in this, he describes it as like a hunger, and I'm like,
yeah. Oh, and then when he has
gross.
He has to absorb a big thing that he really struggles, and he's like, what does he say? That was hard to swallow.
Yeah.
And when you describe,
Literally?
he's absorbing things, and somebody makes a joke off it. It's a pretty good joke, but just the idea that when he absorbs these things, it's like eating them makes it significantly scarier.
Yeah. He absorbs a person at one point, and he's like, no, I'm not letting him go, and it's like,
what does that mean?
Because
what are the implications of that?
When they come out, they are coughing, and I'm like, but you should have been nowhere. You should have been in nothing.
What does that mean?
What is that? But you get to see the team in action, and you in this episode is when you get the costumes for our Outsiders, which is cool.
Yes. Also, I don't know. Do we have a picture of the team in there? I'm glad we don't have what I want to reference.
I just saw Wonder Woman. She was in this episode.
That is not Wonder Woman. Actually.
Oh no, that's a different villain.
What was it?
That is
it's
Queen
just-
Bee.
I like that they brought back as a
It wasn't that
'90s
Wonder
kid.
Woman at all. I see things well though.
You
see
do.
things well.
I literally looked at just the top of her head really quick. It's
Yeah,
gotta
Wonder
be.
Woman. As a kid that grew up in the '90s, I like that with Geo-Force they brought back the face sock, even though I don't know how it works. Now, as an adult, I'm like, how
does it hold on?
does it hold? How do you get it on? For those wondering, it's the Gambit situation or Cyclops in the '90s. It's like, what's happening?
Wally West too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Except for Geo-Force's whole face is out.
Yeah.
Which is confusing. So it frames his face like a little diamond. It's a weird one, but no, that
it looks cool in the show. But when you think about the logistics, you're like, wait a second.
And when they start explaining what the light's doing, it's like, like Light before in season 2 was like they were drugging people in soda, and it's like that's bad, but it's kind of like abstract. Like you can kind of like remove yourself from it because like that's tied so much in conspiracy theories that are out there now. You can be like, oh, whatever, you can write it off. But in this, since it's like human trafficking, you're like, this is like a big problem. Yeah. And this is like legit like a big problem.
Well, and it's interesting too, like when the levels the heroes have to go through to resolve it really emphasize the threat. Like the Justice League's really struggling with this one. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so it's interesting to see them in that space.
They might lose. Yeah. Honestly, they might lose.
So next one is Home Fire. Oh, what would you rate Triptych?
This one I liked because it did the legwork to explain like why is everyone like all separated and like it's like for very specific reasons. Also with that you get separate teams and you get to see teams of characters you haven't seen on the show but you've seen in comics. And you're like, oh wow, that's super duper cool. Ooh, this made me really really happy.
Also made a classic character kind of scary. Classic Batman protege. Like, we need to have a chat with this character.
Oh, well, I'll ask you who that is after who you're talking about. But yes, that was for me. I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Cool. I would give this one maybe an 8.
There it is.
Yeah.
Finally, yes, we're talking about
the confidence in that.
Yeah. It's either 8 or 8.5. I did this for me. This did start solidify. It's always tough to get back into Young Justice because it's so dense. But once it gets its motor running and you see what it's doing, you're like, hell yeah, I'm on board. And then Home Fires came up, and I kind of got a little bit off board.
Well, this episode, we see that a classic DC merc is hired to go after.
Could it be Lobo?
It's probably Lobo.
By the way, I love using. Oh dang it!
There it is.
What happened?
I hit the whole screen instead of the asset. Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. I love the way they use Lobo in this episode, and I like Lobo as not even antagonist is too hard a word, but just like a foil for the other characters because he's so outlandish. I don't need like a Lobo show. I just love the way other characters have to react to Lobo.
Mm-hmm. He also is a villain. Like overall, he's a bad person, and this show doesn't like shy away from that. It's just like, no, he's a bad guy. You can like him. Yeah. He's a bad guy. He does a bad thing in this episode.
He does a very bad thing. Yeah.
And like but it's only okay because of who the character is. But you know what? I really like Bug, Halo, and Geo-Force all together. You get this shot of Bug with Nightwing and Connor.
These last 2 episodes, Bug has so many good jokes about him. It's not him not understanding things. It's him thinking he understands things. Yeah. It's a really good bit.
Because he hears someone introduce themselves, and they mess up. But they did it confidently, so he was like, okay. So he says it the wrong way for everybody. He's like, and then someone else says it short. He's like, no, you're supposed to say it this way.
Yeah, he's like, you're doing it wrong. It's a really funny bit. I like Bug a lot.
And his extra arms are super cool in combat, even though he's gross.
Gotta watch the extra arms.
Yeah, and also a good joke. It's like, yeah, we gotta put on our costumes so we're not naked. It's like, interesting. Here's my costume, and he puts on a helmet, and it's like. He's like, oh, he's naked like all the time. Yeah. But it's a bug. It's fine.
This also, since this is a spoiler free, I'm not going to too intimate.
No, you're more free.
My struggles with this episode is there's a subplot in it that on one hand is cool because you see a lot of like obscure DC characters that you don't normally get to spend a lot of time with.
I don't remember.
But the thing next to the tangential part of that subplot is so incredibly dark. It's not dark in necessarily what happens, but what it represents. You're like, this is too much. This is too much. I mean, I know it's not really. This feels like it's more of a young adult show now than a kid show. You don't think
they should have gone there?
It's too dark.
They don't, but they flirt with it.
They flirt with it, and even flirting with it made the episode feel icky. It made it feel not.
That's really interesting. I don't feel the same way because that's a classic like villain trope. It's like it's just a villain going after loved ones. It's like just to boil it down.
Impulse does have one of my favorite jokes in this episode.
He's got a lot of. That's a good running joke with him. And again, you can see the animation. Like you have to save some money when it's just like still images that are zooming in. And it's like now that you pointed out, I can't not see because I wasn't seeing it before. And now,
sorry. Once the veil is lifted, but the character that's involved there, it's cool to see that character, especially now.
Yeah, because he hasn't really been utilized in this show.
And then another character,
a well-known character.
Yeah. Now he's well known. And then the character that confronts him, it was cool to see on this show as well.
But no, I think this. I mean, it's a classic like trope of bad guy trying to get to the good guys through the loved ones. It's dark because of who they're talking about, but this is, and maybe because the show we know is like darker now, but it doesn't bug me because it's
one scene that's exceptionally violent.
We've seen this trope used like 9 million different times.
Yeah, I guess for some reason it felt closer to home and it felt more real in a very uncomfortable way for me. Also, there's a significant chunk of this episode that's just characters watching characters talk to each other on TV, and it's like, ooh, this is boring. This is boring. It's just straight exposition.
I did like that you are introduced to a classic DC character, and as soon as you see how they're connected to the show, I was like, oh, I kind of see where this season could be going.
Which if we're talking about the same character.
Oh yeah,
very excited.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Very excited to see this show takes on those characters.
Mm-hmm. Bad guys.
Bad guys. So those are our thoughts on Young Justice episodes 7, 8, and 9. But we'd like to know what you think in the comments down below. Roxy, do you think you're going to tune in for episodes 10, 11, and 12?
100%. Why is 7 afraid of 8?
Because 7, 8. No, you said it weird.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
why is 7 afraid of 8?
You should watch.
Why is 8 afraid of 7?
With me for 10, 11, and 12.
Guys, which version of that joke is your favorite? Let us know in the comments down below. And also, if you're using DC Universe, all the people all around the world that don't have it because it's a US locked app, I hear you. Can't help you out though. We don't have that type in. But what you can do is let us know in the comments down below what you think about it. And for those that have seen this, the people that have seen these episodes, let us know what you think about them in the comments. If you want to hear our spoiler thoughts, please tune in next Thursday at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers, where you can get the full episodes of Super TV Showdown as well. Click right here or right here. You'll get to patreon.com/onlystupid. You can guarantee it. 7's afraid of 8 because 7, 8, 9.
No, 8's afraid
Why
of
is
7.
6 afraid of 7? That's why, because 7, 8, 9. That's what the joke is. That's what the joke is.